I want to extend my sympathy to the families of the victims and of the gunmen, and I mean that very sincerely. And really, what happened yesterday were at the church, I heard shots fired, and there was chaos. There was a lot of people in the church, and the people were running away from where the shots were fired, and they were the shots were so loud I thought he was inside, and he wasn't even inside yet when I heard the rounds. And I saw him, it seemed like the hall's cleared out, and I saw him coming through the doors, and I took cover, and I waited for him to get closer, and I came out of cover and identified myself and engaged him and took him down. And that's pretty much it.
He says you're a heroine. Do you agree?
I give the credit to God, and I mean that. I say that very humbly. God was with me, and the whole time I was behind cover. This has got to be God, because of the firepower that he had, and versus what I had was God. And I did.
Hey, Mike from Minnesota here again. And how about those church shootings in Colorado? Some knucklehead goes to a church and kills a few people, and then he drives 65 miles and goes to another church and kills a couple people in their parking lot. Then he goes into the church where there's hundreds of people praying and worshiping. But luckily he didn't make it 50 feet into the building when a plainclothes security guard carrying a concealed weapon shot him dead. Good for her. She did a good job. And this reminded me of a few years ago here in Minnesota when we were updating our concealed carry weapon here. And ironically, it was two church groups that were fighting this tooth and nail. They did not want legal guns in their parking lots or in their churches. They fought it so hard, they went to the state Supreme Court with it, and luckily they lost. I think they can thank their lucky stars or whoever they pray to that they did lose. Because this world is getting a little weird. People are killing people over religion. There will be people going into churches and trying to kill you for your religion. It's crazy. But then I was also thinking back when they were fighting this concealed carry law, the liberals were saying there would be the Wild West in the streets, people being killed all over. And at the same time they were pushing through this billion-dollar boondoggle toy train, and that slipped right through. Well, I think as of today, that toy train has killed 6 people. Legal concealed carry people, 0. That's just a thought on that. But on behalf of the good guys, I want to thank Jeannie Asman of Colorado. You're a hero. You did the right thing. You did what you had to do. Thank you. You can sleep well at night knowing that you are a true hero. Well, this is Mike from Minnesota. You can email me at mikefromminnesota@yahoo.com. We'll talk again soon.
Him and 911.
Yeah, he's trying to get in my back door again.
Who is? Okay, I want to tell you when it's safe to come out, okay? Hang on one second. I want to let you know where the officers are.
He broke through the window again.
He broke through the window. Is he in the house?
Yes, I think he is.
And you're still locked in the bedroom, right?
Yes.
Okay.
What? He broke the window. He's in the house now.
Is he known to carry any weapons at all?
I got one today.
You got one what?
I got a weapon today.
Okay. A gun? You
Yes.
have it? And is it in the room with you?
Yes.
Okay. Where is the gun actually? Is it locked up or is it in your hand?
Oh, it's in my hand.
Okay. Okay.
He's in the door now.
He's turning her door. Okay. Is that him I hear?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything you can
What
put...
are you doing? Here! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Okay, he's in the room with her.
Stop it! Stop it!
Yes.
Jolie?
Screaming.
Stop it!
Are you
Stop it! Stop it! Please stop it! Just stop it!
Okay, they're almost there. They're almost there. If you...
Oh my God!
Okay. Is he still there? Where did he go?
Oh my God!
Okay, now she's just screaming, oh my God, oh my God. I don't know if he's still there or not.
Number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Not here representing the NRA. I'm not even a member. Okay. Secondly, I'd like to say that in your opening statements, you commented specifically on my testimony, saying that basically it had nothing to do with this issue. And I had to chuckle because then I noticed you had Mr. Brady up here, who was hit not with an assault weapon but with a .22 caliber revolver. So getting beyond that, a couple of years ago, my parents and I went to a cafeteria in Texas on a bright sunny day. We weren't in a dark alley where we weren't supposed to be. And as you all know the story, this madman drove his truck through the window. And he began shooting. Well, immediately, my father and I got down on the floor and put the table up in front of us. And this guy kept shooting. And you're thinking, well, what could it be? Is it a robbery? That's the first thing that generally comes to mind. And he keeps shooting. It took me a good 45 seconds to realize that this man wasn't there to commit a robbery. He wasn't there for a hit. He was there to simply shoot as many people as he possibly could. I can tell you that I'm not mad at the guy that did this. As he continued, it was obvious that he was a madman. My father at that point said, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. He's going to kill everybody in here. And he rushed the man. No way. The guy turned, shot him in the chest. He went down, was obviously mortally wounded. For whatever reason, that made the man change directions and go off to my left. Shortly thereafter, someone at the back of the restaurant broke out a window. When I saw what looked like an opportunity to escape, I turned around and I grabbed my mother by the shirt and I said, come on, we've got to run, we've got to get out of here. And then my feet grew wings and I was out the back window. As soon as I got out, I realized that my mother had not followed me out. And as I learned from the police officers, she had crawled over to where my father was and cradled him until the guy got back around to her, put the gun to her head. She looked up at him, put her head down, and he pulled the trigger. My parents had just had their 47th wedding anniversary. She wasn't going anywhere. As I mentioned, I'm not really mad at the guy that did this. And I'm certainly not mad at the guns that did this. They didn't walk in there by themselves and pull their own triggers. The guy that did it was a lunatic. That's like being mad at a rabid dog. I'm mad at my legislators for legislating me out of the right to protect myself and my family. I would much rather be sitting in jail with a felony offense on my head and have my parents alive. As far as these so-called assault weapons, you say that they don't have any defense use. You tell that to the guy that I saw on a videotape of the LA riots, standing up on his rooftop, protecting his property and his life from an entire mob with one of these so-called assault weapons. Tell me that he didn't have a legitimate self-defense use. Just one final statement. I've been sitting here getting more and more fed up with all of this talk about these pieces of machinery having no legitimate sporting purpose, no legitimate hunting purpose. People, that is not the point of the Second Amendment.
Take me back to yesterday. Tell me what you were doing on the property.
You want me to sort of tell it in reverse what we were doing?
Yeah, we'll start.
Before that happened?
Exactly, yeah, you were there doing some work.
We arrived there at the apartment approximately 9 a.m. And we were cleaning it up just in general. My wife, she was washing the walls in the kitchen. The party that did live there, he was there about 8 or 9 years, so we were were cleaning the apartment, and we had the refrigerator out in the front room. We had drop cloths in the front room. Had a table there, getting ready to wash it. It was in the front room, and I had changed the window blinds and repaired a few things like replacing the furnace filter, and we had our cleaning material there. We had our shampooer, and we were going to paint it and wash everything down first, and then paint it and clean the carpets and rent it out again.
So as you're doing this work, these two gentlemen show up at the house. Take me through what took place.
Okay, here's what happened. I went outside. It was somewhere around 4:30, something in that area. I went outside to get a filter out of my vehicle. There's no parking in front of the apartment because there is a bus stop there. So I was parked on the street, roughly a block. It would be about a block east of the building. So I went to the car, and I talked to a gentleman upstairs that lived there, and he asked me for some work, and I told him that I had a house on 32nd Street that the roof should be painted, and if he and his buddy would want to do that. And he said, yes. He said, write the address down for me. And I was going to my vehicle to get a furnace filter, so I went to my vehicle, and I got the filter, and I got a pencil out of my vehicle, and I opened my wallet up and took a card out and wrote the address down. And I had quite a bit of money in my wallet because it's first of the month, and I have a lot of units down there where I collect the rent. And he said thank you and everything, and I took my filter, went back inside, I locked the door. There's a primary door there. It's a steel door. It has two locks. I locked the deadbolt lock on the top, and I went into the apartment. I locked the deadbolt lock, and I put my filter in. It took just 2 or 3 minutes, and then I started working on the shampooer. I was kneeling down by my tool pouch at the edge of the bedroom, which is maybe 10, 12 feet from the exit door going out in the hallway. And I was trying to repair the carpet cleaning machine. And previously, about an hour before that, a lady called me that was interested in renting that apartment. And I heard this knock on the door, boom, boom, boom. I figured it was okay because the other door was locked, and someone had to let her in, and she would be okay. You know, that sort of caught me off guard. So I walked to the door, and I barely opened it. And then as I did, here came these two masked people. And at the time, I thought it was a Uzi he had. He had it sticking out in my face and yelling everything that you're going to die, give me your wallet, you're going to die. And so as he opened the door swings this direction, he sort of pushed me backward to where the drop cloths were, and I sort of straddled the drop cloths. They were maybe, 1.5 feet tall. And when I looked him in the eye, I knew I was going to die. I mean, the weapon there, and it was a large weapon. And my wife was there. She was in the other room. And I figured I was going to die, but they were going to die too. And I faked a heart attack. I said, oh my God, man. And they hit me on the head. And I kicked one on the leg that had the weapon. And when I did that, I was bending down to get my weapon, which was in my waistband. And I saw his gun go up. And when his gun went up, I shot him in the side. And when I shot him, his arm stayed there, and his eyes, like he was surprised. He never did lower the weapon at me again. And then I shot the other one, and he went against the wall. And then I shot the man with the weapon again. And then I shot the other guy again. All this happened just in a split second. And the man that had the weapon that I saw, I didn't know what the other man had or anything. It just happened so quick. and they were shouting everything they could shout, what they were going to do to us. And so the man that I'd already shot twice, he managed to get out the door. And when he got out that door, I thought he was going to start blazing with the Uzi through the door, so I just kept firing. And I emptied my my weapon, which was 11 shots. It was a 40 caliber.
40 caliber.
Uh-huh. And then my wife, she was screaming, and she was just hysterical. And she said, Billy called 911, and my phone was down where I'd gotten so many calls. And it took me maybe 3 or 4 tries to even get out.
He filled out the paperwork. I put it on the computer, sent it to the state police, and they gave him a clean bill of health, nothing in his background. So once they approved the sale, he paid and left.
Would the U.S. be better protected from psychopathic shooters like this guy if concealed firearms were legal, Gretchen?
Susanna Hupp helped change gun laws in Texas to allow licensed gun owners to carry concealed weapons. She says more concealed weapons keeps people safer from gun violence. She's live for us in Austin. Good morning to you, Susanna.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And the reason that you feel so strongly about this, as you do, is because you have an extremely important, relevant, personal story to share with viewers. Your parents were gunned down in Killeen, Texas at the Luby's cafeteria there in 1991. Of course, many people remember this tragedy when it unfolded there. You were in the restaurant with them, and you claimed that had you been able to carry a concealed weapon, you could have helped save the lives of your parents. How?
Well, you sure can't argue with the fact that it would have changed the odds. People like this go into places that are gun-free zones. I mean, if you pay attention to what's been going on for the last 20 years, all of these mass shootings have been in these so-called gun-free zones. I think we've created a shopping list for people who want a large body bag count. There's no doubt in my mind that anyone having a gun in that restaurant that day would have made a difference. The body count would have been much lower. Several of the people who were killed also had their guns out in their vehicles. We had no way of carrying them legally at that point in Texas.
Susanna, do you feel as though that these gunmen profile, when you get the experts involved, that they don't want a gunfight, they just want to kill, and if they thought they were in a gunfight, they wouldn't go in?
Well, obviously everyone is an individual, but again, when you look at all of these mass shootings over the last, I've got to say, about 15 or 20 years, every one of them has been in a gun-free zone. I think they are looking for the highest body count they can possibly get. I mean, look at them. We've had Columbine, we've had daycare centers, we've had post offices, we've had this issue, and here was a situation where we knew we had concealed carry permit holders in that Virginia campus, but they weren't allowed to carry there. And I've got to tell you, at the point where a campus or any other place says you're not allowed to exercise your right here, then at that point, I believe that they have taken on not only the responsibility for your health and safety, but they've taken on the liability as well.
Okay, so recently Virginia Tech officials testified at a legislative hearing against the professors or students being able to carry a concealed weapon if they were over the age of 21. So you're saying that you're absolutely convinced that had they been able to carry weapons, that we would not have seen the death toll that we saw there on Monday?
I think there's a huge likelihood that we would have, number one, it probably wouldn't have happened. Now, you can't prevent somebody from going and killing their girlfriend or going and killing 1 or 2 people. But in a situation where they're wanting to rack up a high body bag count, yes, I think it would have, number one, deterred it, and number two, it would have stopped it if it did go ahead and occur.
Susanna, in the past, except for maybe 1 or 2 instances after a major situation like this, people push for stricter gun laws. Do you see it the same scenario again, or you see people going more towards your line of thinking?
You know, I think it's mixed, but I do think people are sick and tired of this scenario. And I will say again that if guns are the problem, then why don't we see these mass shootings happen at NRA conventions or gun shows or skeet and trap shoots? They don't. They happen where guns aren't allowed.
Because your argument is that this guy, this kind of a whacked out guy, is going to do this no matter what, however hard it is to get a gun.
They want to kill people like fish in a barrel, and I can't begin to tell you how frustrating it is to be one of those fish with absolutely no way of defending yourself, and that is something the politicians have created. I want to know why my teachers in my kids' school can't defend themselves.
Right.
I can.
Well, a very interesting and controversial argument. I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about this in the coming weeks. Susanna Hupp, thanks for your perspective this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Meanwhile...
Bodytite 911, where's your emergency?
There is a strange man outside our home, and he's hollering, and he's crying out. I don't know what's going on with him.
Can you see anything about him, what he looks like?
No, it's dark and raining.
Okay. Did he have a vehicle or is he on foot?
He's on foot.
Has he come to your door or windows?
He's at our door.
He's at your front door?
He's at our back deck.
At the back deck? Okay, hold on 1 second for me, okay?
I'm going to give you my wife. I'm going to go get my gun.
Hello? Ma'am, hold on 1 second for me, okay? Okay.
Oh, my God.
Ma'am, what's wrong?
He's trying to break down the door.
He's trying to break the door down, Kenny, right now. Okay, ma'am, we've got deputies headed that way, okay? Ask your husband what kind of gun it is?
He's just beating the door.
I hear him, ma'am. Ma'am, can you see if he has a gun or not?
I cannot see.
Well, the gun. What just happened?
I hear him walking around outside on the deck. I don't know. Oh, my gosh. He's trying to get through the door. You have got to get somebody here.
They're on the way, ma'am, I promise, okay? They're coming as fast as they can. Okay, just hang out on the phone with me for a second.
We've got a wrought iron table out there. I think he's getting the chair.
He's getting the chair. Hey, he has the chair in his hand?
He's counting. Oh, my God. Oh, God, he's getting ready to come in. Oh, my God! Oh, my Lord! Oh, my God!
Ma'am, you still there?
Hey, oh, my God! Please get somebody here quick!
Ma'am. Ma'am.
Yeah.
What happened?
He just came through. My husband shot him, but he's still moving. Oh, Lord.
Okay, the husband shot him. Where did he shoot him?
Turned on Nace Road.
They just turned on the Nace Road.
Ma'am, there is a deputy there, okay?
There is, okay?
Yes. Where is the man that your husband shot?
I guess he's still out on the back deck.
Fallen officer. We rarely hear about self-defense occurrences where a victim used a firearm to stay alive. We hear even less about occurrences where a legally armed citizen aids a law enforcement officer. There are stories like this. Here is just one. Phoenix police officer Mark Atkinson was shot when he attempted to stop 3 men. Those men were illegal Mexicans. A person who was driving by saw the officer being shot. Most people would have driven by and just maybe would have called the police. Others drove by and kept on driving. Roy Vertigan knew he had to act and help the fallen officer. When the 3 Mexicans saw Mr. Vertigan, they fired at him. What they did not know is that Roy Vertigan was legally armed. He returned shots with his Glock 9mm pistol. 14 rounds from his pistol hit the Mexicans' vehicles. One of the 3 men was wounded by the barrage of these shots. Trying to get away, the criminals ran Mr. Vertigan's Kia with their Lincoln Continental. Roy Vertigan had to use his weak hand to continue shooting. The Mexican who had been shot by Mr. Vertigan jumped from the Lincoln Continental and tried to run. Roy Vertigan did not want him to escape. He got out of his car, tackled the Mexican, and held him for the police. The officer was shot. Mark Atkinson did not survive. Police Chief Harold Hurt praised the actions of Mr. Vertigan, saying that he was one of the true heroes of our time. He realized an officer was in trouble, and without regard for his own personal safety, he confronted the individuals and engaged in a gun battle. He put his life on the line for an officer and a fellow human being.
I put a .38 revolver right about here.
Within weeks of getting the gun, Lance found he needed it.
Over the other side of this watchmaker's bench, 2 clients, one client was waiting for me to find his watch, and I was going through the watches to see if his watch was ready to pick up, two other male individuals came in the shop, stood behind him, knocked him on the head. He went down, and then they went up in a combat stance, at least one of them did, with a 9mm in his hand, and yelling at me, giving me his watches. What I did was I was looking through the watches, and I didn't do anything fast because he had shot me if I'd have reached for something. So he was going, give me a watch, give me a watch. And that was it. It's as simple as that. I just decided not to be a victim in an instant. I'm not the fastest gun in the West. I'm not Wild Bill Hickok. I was scared to death.
The man who tried to rob Lance was shot in the face, but he survived and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. His accomplice got away.
What if I didn't have the gun there? What if it was sitting on my desk behind me? What if the scenarios were endless, and I found myself, if it ever happened again, to reduce the probability of losing my life.
Lance did that by practicing at the gun range, training at a gym several days a week, and by working out gunfight tactics to every robbery scenario he could think of. He bought several more guns and hid them every 3 feet behind the showcase so that one would always be within reach if robbers struck again. 3.5 months later, they did.
It was 7:15 in the evening, and the store had 3 customers in it, an employee, and 2 individuals came in armed with I believe a Mach 10 and an automatic pistol.
All of a sudden, Lance said, hit the floor, Jerry. And I don't know how, nobody was holding on to me. I just went down.
Immediately came up firing at both of them, and he firing at me as I came up.
In the middle of the gunfight, with 2 robbers inside the store and 2 others outside, Lance Thomas managed to call 911.
I need a police car at 12118 Santa Monica, robbery in progress. Where is this at? Santa Monica, the watch company. All right. We'll get the watch company.
It's all slow motion. There's lots of flashes of light, looking down the barrel of an armed robber, repeatedly firing his weapon point-blank range, trying to stop them from killing me and everybody in the shop.
Lance is very quick. I mean, very quick. And he doesn't have a fear that a lot of people have.
Lance shot and killed the 2 robbers, despite having been shot himself once in the neck and 3 times in the shoulder. He almost died that night in the hospital.
Let's go all the way back mentally to ground zero. I'm faced with an armed intruder. Now, I have to make a mental decision to be a victim of his mercy. Or exercise the right of self-defense and fight back. And in fighting back, part of that is the willingness to die and to kill. Hard choice.
After 2 gunfights, Lance Thomas decided additional precautions were necessary. He spent more time practicing drawing his gun. He also put in a surveillance camera, hired a part-time security guard, and upgraded his arsenal of guns. 2 years passed.
And then it happened again.
There's a 6'5" guy with a 9mm Glock in my face. He said, "Don't reach for it, I'll kill you."
And what did you think?
Reached for it immediately and got shot through the neck here, out the back. Was able to get my hand on a semi-automatic weapon and torqued my wrist, and shot 3 times. He shot twice more. And he died in the scene.
The robber was the 3rd to die in as many shootouts at Thomas's store.
I went to the hospital, and it was they didn't sever my spinal cord or my jugular. It just went in here and out here. So a Band-Aid sufficed, and I was back to work the next day.
He said, "Don't do anything or I'll kill you." So why do anything? If you hadn't reached for your gun, maybe you wouldn't have gotten shot. Maybe he would have gotten a few of your watches, but it would have been over.
Would have been up to him, wouldn't it? He had his finger on the trigger, and he intended to negotiate. There's no negotiation. My life is too precious for that.
Did you think after that incident, maybe You know, things are getting out of control here.
Yes.
It's time to get out of town.
I put a double door in then. They came in anyway.
It would be Lance's fourth gunfight. Two robbers linked to one of L.A.'s most violent gangs entered the store.
They pretended to open the front door to leave, turned around, said, "You're dead," and fired the weapons. But that wasn't quick enough. I killed them both.
Lance Thomas was totally justified in everything that he did.
Detective Lee Kingsford investigated the shootings.
All of the suspects had extensive criminal records. They knew what they were doing. They just didn't know who they were doing it against.
When Lance Thomas emerged from his store after the last shootout, neighboring merchants cheered.
I go over to Lance Thomas' place and look at the guy laying down beside the door, and I said to myself, "God damn, he's really tough."
What concerns me is that a lot of shopkeepers have armed themselves and viewed me as somewhat of a hero, and it's rather dangerous for them to, in my view, to take guns in their shop and expect to perform the same way I did, not knowing how I spent so much time and effort preparing.
Shortly after hosing the blood off the sidewalk in front of his watch store, Thomas closed up his business and went into seclusion.
When word reached him that gang members were out for revenge, Thomas closed his store for good. But he strongly believes he did the right thing in trying to defend himself.
A man must live by his principle, who he is, not what he is. In fact, isn't that why anybody remembers anybody? Who they are? Not what he owns or what he is or what his title is, but how they feel about him. There are things in this life more important than what we own, and that is the principle in which we live by.
By 1996, Lance Thomas had retreated from the world, running his watch business by appointment only from a location he asked Justice Files not to disclose. He's had no armed confrontation since, but as the arsenal that surrounds him suggests, his life will never be the same.
It's kind of made an old man out of me, out of a fun-loving young man, I can tell you that. And I understand what a soldier goes through when he encounters mortal combat. It's hell. It's something to be avoided. But if you have to do it, you must be responsible. Because I prepared myself so thoroughly, I was able to survive.
Also in 1996.
And I think the judicial system must never take the right away from citizens to bear arms and defend themselves.
Lance has invoked his right to defend himself with deadly consequences, and he recognizes the personal price he's paid.
Many people would refer to me as paranoid. I have reduced my contact with most people. Life has been one of seclusion, of tactical defense. Do I feel safer? I just want to feel alive.
A gun turns a roadside argument